Good morning, everyone. Last month, we started a new topic, what we generally call the motto of the Ramakrishna order, or the twin ideal, is Atmano Mokshartam Jagadhitaya Cha, that we dedicate our lives to this striving for liberation and working for the welfare of the world. This is a phrase that, as far as we know, Swamiji coined just before the first batch of new sannyasins that Swamiji gave the vows to in 1897, just before May 1st, when the Ramakrishna Math mission was established. Swamiji had come back from the West and established what we now call the Math mission. We make this distinction in Ramakrishna Math centers, or these ashram centers, and the Seva ashram centers, the mission centers that do some type of social service work. So it sounds like an ideal that everyone will accept, something very beautiful, and yet we find that there was a little bit of confusion, maybe some objection, a little bit, especially to the social service aspect. There was some thought that these were ideas that Swamiji picked up in the West, that typically sannyasins don't do much in terms of social service, that Sri Ramakrishna didn't emphasize that too much. So a little bit of a question with regard to social service. Then even with regard to striving for one's own liberation, is this something that was emphasized by Sri Ramakrishna? So a question arose whether this was really very faithful to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. And the funny thing is that we can also ask, did Swamiji not contradict both of these at different times? Especially one of his lectures that we don't help the world, we only help ourselves. So then what is this helping the world? And also with regard to this search for striving for liberation. So I want to go through all those things. Today specifically, the first part, Atmano Mokshartam. What does it mean to strive for liberation? And try to understand it in a sense that's perfectly consistent with the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and really with Swamiji's innermost feeling. So it doesn't take much. There's not much that we have to tweak. But as I say, it can be misunderstood. We can have these little doubts. So sometimes it's good to raise doubts and then try to go through them. This is called building up a straw man, so we can knock him down. And then we can have a little... Actually, this is a very common thing in what the commentators do, that they'll build up a case against their position and show that that case has no validity to it. And there's one way to prove the validity of their own position. So, we can see that the portion about doing good to the world, we can understand that some of the direct disciples were a little hesitant. We saw last time that Swamiji's feelings got very hurt when they raised that issue. Is this your own idea? We didn't hear Sri Ramakrishna talking about these things so much. But we'll find that there are issues also with the striving for liberation or salvation, however we understand it, that is this really the main goal of spiritual life? Is there something selfish about it? Is there something, because just for ourselves, is there something pessimistic about it? Is there something escapist about it? We just don't want to be born again? So these are the types of questions that arise. And how much did Sri Ramakrishna talk about at least final liberation? That what happens to after God realization? We don't find very much about all of this. So many of these, the answers that we give, first of all, they're very personal answers. It depends on what our spiritual attitude is, what our belief is in the afterlife, if we have any belief at all, if we have any conviction with regard to it, with regard to the ideas of rebirth and karma. We take it for granted, I think many of us, I did at least, that everybody automatically accepted this idea of rebirth in samskaras. It was a little bit of a surprise to me, reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, to find that M really had no faith in this idea of even of reincarnation. That he asked Ramakrishna several times that, will this be harmful to me if I don't really accept this idea? And Sri Ramakrishna himself, we just read that when he was asked about rebirth, on one occasion at least, he said, yes, we read something like that. A very lukewarm answer to that. And if so many people believe it, it must be true, something like that. On the other hand, we know that he had a very firm conviction with regard to samskaras, with regard to where these other souls came from. So it was just his mood that particular day or something. So in any event, a lot of this will have to do with how we understand these different things. What if we're dualistic, we'll have some idea of what it means to attain final liberation. The Dvaitins will have a different type of idea. And then we'll get this other issue, which I think is the most important, that we have two different types of mukti. We have these terms moksha and mukti. I think they're more or less interchangeable. Anyhow, I'm not going to make any big distinction, but if we're talking about this liberation or freedom or emancipation, we have two different concepts. One is called jivan mukti, which will be something that we attain here and now while we're alive. It's not a question of after the body falls, what happens to the soul. This is something that we get here and now. And then videha mukti, which is similar to other traditions, that what happens to the soul after death. And some Western dualistic traditions, it goes up or it goes down. And other traditions, it's a temporary thing, that we have some experience, then we're born again, and then it may be a final idea of heaven. There are all different views about this. So this is what's called videha mukti, literally after we've given up the body. What is that state of liberation? So I want to spend this morning looking at these various ways of understanding mukti or moksha, liberation, as a metaphysical doctrine and also as a goal of life. We may accept all of this, but then is this really why we've taken the spiritual life? Or is there anything more? So we'll go through some of these different questions. Also, what Swamiji meant really by Atmano Mokshartam. What did he really mean by that? And how it fits in with the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So we have these two ideas. Jivan mukti, liberated while living. Videha mukti, freedom from rebirth after giving up the body. The most traditions, the second one is emphasized, partly because the first ideal is a very high ideal. There are very few people who really feel that, yes, I can attain this samadhi state, I can attain enlightenment, nirvana in this lifetime. Most people are good people. They want to lead a good dharmic type of life and then be safe in the afterworld. So this is one thing that for most people puts the emphasis on what will happen after we die. And the other issue why people are concerned so much is because life can be painful. And those who have a firm belief in reincarnation would rather not have to go through it again. This is something that we all experience and we can understand. But in those who really take the spiritual life, the first one is what we're really striving for. That this is the one of the greatest value and represents for most of us the real goal. This is why we take the spiritual life, and not to get out of anything that may come in the future, but there's longing to have the experience, that a realization of whatever truth is there, whatever reality is there, to have that vision of God, if possible, and to strive for that. Anyhow, I'll start with these different ideas of videha mukti, this final liberation, because every different religious tradition has its own understanding of what happens to the soul after death. And it'll be different in Western traditions, dualistic traditions, and whether there is even any existence of a soul afterwards. These are all different metaphysical doctrines that we can say. And the quarrel among the different schools of Vedanta, I had a professor once who made this claim. At the time, I didn't think too much of it, but it's a very interesting claim. He said the real argument, the real fight among the non-dualists and the dualists didn't have so much to do about, is God formless or with form, these different metaphysical doctrines, but what will that experience be of in that state of liberation, that the dualists and qualified non-dualists, they want to have that experience of God. They want to be able to keep their individuality, not because it's such a strong metaphysical doctrine, but out of some desire to spend eternity with that joy of communion with God, something like that. Whereas the non-dualists, they want to be merged in that Brahman, whatever that means. This is also not such a simple thing for us to understand. So if we dig beneath the surface, then we may find that this whole idea of what happens after death is lurking just beneath the surface and driving this very strong conviction that either the Jiva is nothing but Brahman, or the Jiva will maintain some sense of individuality in that ultimate state of realization. And there's no way of proving who's right and who's wrong. Everything I'm going to say is pure speculation from my point of view. From my point of view, that these are very mysterious things and very hard for us to know. We choose the one that appeals to us from a logical point of view and from the heart center point of view also. So we'll find that this idea, this distinction between the two different types of liberation, this is something we'll find in all of the spiritual traditions that grew out of the Vedic tradition, the Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and everything, that this idea that there's some final liberation, but also something to be achieved, and that liberation is either you're reborn or you're not reborn. Whereas in Western religions, it'll be either you go up or you go down, either salvation or damnation. This will be a very big distinction that we'll find in these two traditions. Although there'll be dualistic traditions within the Hindu tradition that are very close to this Western idea also. But we'll find that all of the different conceptions of final liberation in the different Vedantic schools hinge on this idea of rebirth, that the struggle for knowledge, for devotion, for purity, all of these things will go on life after life until we attain that final state where we've learned our lessons. Everything has been achieved that we're meant to achieve. So according to this, that everything that we experience in this lifetime determines the next. So they say, yata karma, yata shrutam, according to what we've done and what we've heard or what we've experienced, that this will shape and form whatever comes in the next life, whatever either experience in some other realm or when we take human birth again. So it's kind of a wave theory, that the force and shape of one wave will determine the one that follows it. It'll go underground or underwater. There'll be a crest and then a hollow, and then it'll come back again. And some Buddhist traditions will say there are no water molecules in common with one and the other. It's simply that the karma is causing another wave to come. There's no common feature. And Hindu tradition will say more that, no, this is that same wave in a different form. You'll find the same water molecules. So different ways of looking at the whole thing. But this comes to an end when the wave reaches the shore. It's not something that goes on forever and ever once that journey is completed. There's a certain logic to all of this, that a certain conviction with regard to cause and effect. We come into this world that there has to be something behind it, some reason why we have the tendencies and the qualities and everything that we have. And this cause and effect, the other corollary, that the effect is the cause in a different form, just as the new wave is really the old wave in a different form, that there has to be some conservation of matter and energy, but it'll show itself in a different way, that nothing is lost, only transformation. So all of our experiences, everything that we do in this world, will remain with us or will inform the next birth that we have. And sometimes the change is very radical, that we have trouble understanding how there can be so much change within a lifetime. But if we analyze, we'll find that nothing happens that doesn't have a sufficient cause to it. Yeah, so even with regard to all of this, if we think of, we have a diamond now. How does a diamond start? It starts as these ferns over millions and millions of years, that somehow they can get compressed into carbon, and in millions and millions of years, and it turns into a stone, then we get a diamond out of it. So it's a long process. So this, we can say, is that evolution that the soul takes until it turns itself into a diamond, then the job is done. Now, Swamiji gives his own type of explanation, which I like. It's a very beautiful thing. A little bit similar to the Sankhya school, but he says that don't think the soul is coming and going anywhere. It's sitting where it always was through all eternity, as if reading a book. So we're all just the witness of all of this change that's taking place, that each lifetime is like another chapter in the book. Then finally we get to the end of the book and the whole thing is over. He says, I am omnipresent, eternal. Where can I go? Where am I not already? I'm reading this book of nature. Page after page, I'm finishing and turning over, and one dream of life after another goes away. Another page of life is turned. Another dream of life comes, and it goes away, rolling and rolling. And when I finished my reading, I let go and stand aside. I throw away the book, and the whole thing is finished. So different ways of trying to understand what happens, this state of final liberation. In any event, it's said to put an end to what we call samsara, this round of birth and death. So with this videha mukti, this question always comes up: what is this state of liberation? That we may feel that I'm striving for something that I don't know anything about. I have no idea what it will be like. We have a certain set of beliefs, maybe slightly convictions, but for most of us it's a little bit mysterious. And as I say, all of the traditions give us different types of conceptions and ideas that we have. And the funny thing is that all the different descriptions that we get, even different heavens and hells and everything, and different lokas, we meet our ancestors, whatever it is, they may all be right. They may all be right. This is just an idea that comes to me, that this experience of the next world may be almost purely subjective. Almost purely subjective. In Swamiji's terms, this is just another page, another dream. This will really help to explain how all of us can have that experience in the next so-called next world, that is the one that the heart is yearning for. And also funny things. Did anybody ever stop to think that meeting the ancestors and departed ones and everything, what age will they be? What will they look like? You'll have grandparents and great-grandparents the same age. How will they interact with each other? All sorts of funny things, huh? But if we look at it as something more subjective or mental, anyhow, I'm not promoting a new theory like that, but just an interesting thing to think about. Swamiji says in one place that these ideas of heavens and hells are based on culture that we come from, and sometimes the longing for things that we don't have. So he gives the example that many people in Middle Eastern countries, very dry desert areas, their conception of heaven is very lush and green, filled with fruits and everything, the things that we don't get here. And for most of us, the things that we long to have, many conceptions that we go to heaven is full of enjoyment. All of the things that Nachiketa was tempted with by Yama. There's some conception like that. So a little bit of this is our own childish imagination, but there's truth behind it. If this is the experience that we have, it's a subjective. It doesn't mean it's not real. This is also very much a subjective experience that we have now. And at the very end of this lifetime, even if we don't cross over and get to look back at the very end of this lifetime, when we look back, it'll appear to be dreamlike. Huh? I am convinced of that. And again, not as a metaphysical doctrine, but just how the whole thing just went by. This is Maya. Huh? The Swamiji's the story he tells about Narada. 12 years of my life went by, and you're saying it was just a half hour has gone. So this is that play of time and everything. So maybe the same with this next. So this idea of loka. Loka means location, and the same English word, loka, that it's not really going anywhere. As Swamiji says, where does the soul go? But it's having a new set of experiences. Anyhow, this is all speculation, as I've been saying. Now, what about the non-dualists? That if they say that this final state, we regain our true nature, which we never really lost, that we're one with the Brahman. Or, if we want to put it in dualistic terms, we merge in Brahman, that infinite absolute reality. What does that feel like? Huh? Do we have any conception of that? Is that something to long for? I think the closest we can understand is that perhaps it's that state of nirvikalpa samadhi. The nirvikalpa samadhi state, body is there or it's not there, we don't know. And it may be after 21 days the body falls off and we simply remain in that state. But there's no experiencer there, and there's no difference between experience and experiencer, subject and object in that state. So how different is it from some of the Buddhist states where nirvana means we just extinguish the light? Now there'll be some who say that, no, this is a blissful state, but who is there to experience the bliss? So this is also something that not very easy, at least for me, to understand. Exactly, are we striving for something that, even striving for nirvikalpa samadhi? How many people will strive for that if they have this belief that, oh good, after 21 days the body's gone? This is something that's very appealing to most people. Some, of course, yeah, but not everyone. Only those madcaps who become sadhus. Yeah. So this is for the Advaitins. For the dualists and the qualified non-dualists, who are also dualists, we have to say that in their own way, that really they're lumped on one side and the Advaitins on the other side. There are distinctions, of course, but they talk about different states of liberation. And some of these devotional schools, they speak about 5 different types of mukti. One is salokya. We dwell in the same plane, the same thing. Samyupya, in close contact with God. Sarupya, somehow having a similar form. Sadharmya, somehow having similar qualities. And Sayudhya, that'll be in a very close state of union with God. And the interesting thing is that this Sayudhya state, for the highly dualistic schools, is the least desirable state. They want a little more separation. That it's almost merging. It's almost like the Advaitic state of oneness. They want to have a little separation. They don't want to become sugar, they want to taste the sugar. Something like that. So they'll speak about these different types. And then, as I said, the Buddhist schools, many of them, southern schools, mostly Theravada, that really the light goes out, nirvana. That there's really, main thing is just putting an end to this round of birth and death. A little bit pessimistic, a little bit based on this idea, sarvam dukkam, everything is suffering, that we just want to put an end to all of this. Other schools, Mahayana schools, a little closer to or non-dualistic Vedanta. We get some indication in the Bhagavad Gita. There's something in the Upanishads also, but in Gita, we understand to capture the essential features of the Upanishads. This is why it's so highly regarded, even though it's not Shruti. It doesn't belong to the same class of literature. But it also has other ideas, Sankhya ideas, theistic ideas, devotional ideas, this avatar ideas there we don't find in the Upanishads. But there'll be different verses that will say in that state one attains Sri Krishna, or attains a personal God, we can say, and or attains that state of sadharmya that will have the same qualities and characteristics of God. And of course, no more rebirth. We read several verses in chapter 8 that deals mostly with these questions of liberation. Reaching the highest perfection and having attained me, the great souled ones are no more subject to rebirth, which is the abode of pain and ephemeral. Now, this having attained me, we'll have schools of Vedanta, Vaishnava schools mostly, who take this absolutely literally. It means you're attaining Krishna. No idea that this just means personal God according to what your idea is. It means that. And then all the worlds, O Arjuna, including the realm of Brahma, are subject to return. But after attaining me, O son of Kunti, there is no more rebirth. This is very, very general. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna uses that language. Ishwar Labh, attainment of God. It's big enough to contain all of these different ideas that we have. Then, what is called unmanifested and imperishable has been described as the supreme goal. That is my highest state, having attained which there is no return. And in chapter 14, they who, having devoted themselves to this knowledge, have attained to my being. This is the mama sadharmyam agadaha. They are neither born at the time of creation, nor troubled at the time of dissolution. Anyhow, the point of all this is that different scriptures and different traditions will give us completely different interpretations of what it means to attain to the state of final liberation. And ultimately, I think most of us will agree that it's mysterious, that we really can't come to any very, very fixed conviction. Or if we do, we recognize this is my belief, part of my belief system. I don't want to force it on anybody else. Although, of course, there'll be traditions that those who take Scripture very literally, Bible and other things, they can have deep conviction. No, it's exactly this way. It's written in the Scriptures. Otherwise, if we really try to analyze these things, we understand that it's very hard to say. And Sri Ramakrishna, he emphasizes this idea over and over and over again, the impossibility of getting answers to all of these difficult types of questions. And he'll constantly tell us, what need do you have of knowing all of these things? Yeah. One bottle of wine is enough to get you drunk, and you want to know how many bottles there are in the wine cellar. He said, don't be foolish. Have that experience. The Buddhist tradition has the same type of idea. But one thing that we see is that all these ideas of liberation, whether there's some eternal heaven, some eternal enjoyment or something, they're all meant to counteract this feeling that this world is full of pain and suffering. And in the most, I would say, negative sense, liberation is getting out of it, is avoiding all of the difficulties and problems that come with human life. And even if with a little positive spin that we try to give it, a little bit pessimistic, a little bit escapist, and a little bit, I don't want to say selfish, but it has to do with us. Yeah, I want to get out. It's not the kind of thing that I'm going to carry everybody with me. Mostly for me. And sometimes these ideas of heavens and hells and things are a little overly simplistic and a little bit fantastic. One thing I find interesting is that there's almost this common idea that heaven is up and it's in the clouds, and that hell is down. And how people in these ancient days had this understanding that the very core of the earth, there is fire, molten stuff, and but this idea that you're not even traveling to a different realm. This in Greek mythology, there's subterranean rivers. This river Styx, and you get in a boat and you cross to the other side, and it's burning and everything, and you have to dig and all that. This is hell. And in many religions, it's something similar to that. And heaven, I used to think, heaven, how do people stand on these clouds? But then you see these paintings, the big wings, these angels with the big wings and everything, playing these harps. I don't know how they don't fall through the clouds. But anyhow, so these are the ideas that we come up with. Yes, this longing of the heart to lead a good life so we can have this type of enjoyment and to avoid this terrible going into the bowels of the earth and having to do hard labor with fire, burning fire all around us and everything. Okay, so enough of all of this. I went through all of this because I don't think it's important, that I think that the real meaning of everything has to go with this Jivan Mukti. And that I think this is really what Swamiji meant, this is really what Sri Ramakrishna means when he talks about this ultimate goal of life, that we want to attain to that state of perfect freedom, that perfect joy, perfect bliss, perfect harmony with everyone, seeing God dwelling with everyone here and now, this very lifetime, and this is what we're striving for. With the understanding that if we lead that type of life, that the benefit will come at the end also, automatically. We don't have to worry too much about it. One of my favorite lines from Gita is this idea that a good person, kalyanakrit, doesn't have to worry about any durgati. It's very, very vague. Who is a kalyanakrit? A good person. If we're good people, then nothing bad will happen afterwards. We don't have to know exactly where we're going. Will it be lush gardens? Will it be on the banks of the Yamuna? Which we don't have to worry. There won't be any durgati. We won't have any bad thing happen to any of us. So, we want to have that experience, which we can have here and now, something very tangible, which will free us from all sorts of anxiety, frustration, fear, feeling of alienation, that all of the things that can bring joy to life here. Actually, there's one very nice theory is that heaven and hell is this very lifetime. And it's up to us whether we make this our experience of heaven or our experience of hell. And it's this through these attachments and through these desires and everything that determines whether it's something enjoyable or something horrible. I'll tell you, I just thought of something. This is something from some Jewish scripture, Talmud, maybe, that somebody wanted to have an experience to see what heaven looked like and what hell looked like. I was very young at this summer camp I went to one year. And so someone was taken, there was a big banquet hall, and the plates are set out and everything is there, beautiful food, and everyone is sitting around. And this is heaven. And he notices that all the utensils are very long, so that you can't feed yourself. And then he goes to hell, and he says exactly the same thing. And he sees that all the people in heaven are feeding each other. And all the people in hell are trying to feed themselves, but are unable to do it, and not interested in helping anybody else. Otherwise, exactly the same. So this very world, we turn into a heaven or a hell. And another way of looking at all of this. But we have to really appreciate this idea that we can attain to a state of perfection. Now, it doesn't mean the body is perfect, doesn't mean even that the mind is perfect, but that we reach some state of freedom from all different types of bondage that we have. Not a metaphysical doctrine, more a psychological doctrine, we can say. That not disturbed by all of this frustration and longing and competitiveness and all sorts of things that make life miserable for most people. And the other interesting thing is, how do we attain that? By practicing that. Yeah. That we want to attain to that state of desirelessness, we have to give up desires. Or fulfill some of them, give up the rest of them. We want to feel oneness with everyone, we have to practice it. We have to treat everyone like our very own. This is the way that we can get to do that. So, Swamiji's idea of mukti or moksha, liberation, is something very different and so entirely opposed to this idea of final liberation. That real idea of this videha mukti, Swamiji has some very strong things to say about that. There's a very nice section from a book written by Swami Nirvananandaji. He was the disciple of Swami Brahmanandaji, one of the vice presidents of our order. He said, one's own happiness and one's own mukti alone were never the goal of Thakur Ma Swamiji or Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda. That is why Swamiji has given us this great mantra, Atmano Mokshartham Jagatithaya Cha. So he doesn't take this at all as meaning final liberation, Atmano Mokshartham. He's taking this as really attaining to that state where we know who we are, where we have that type of freedom. So this is a very great distinction that we have between mukti or moksha as personal salvation and mukti as a type of freedom from bondage, which is mostly in the mind. And in this latter sense, there's no selfishness involved in it. This longing to have realization, this longing to be free from the bondage of ignorance is not something that we do very selfishly, the longing for the vision of God. It's something that just becomes some overpowering desire. We see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna that was that ever an issue that, is it selfish if I try to have the vision of Mother? No, he's swept away. Or in the life of Buddha, that it wasn't that I want to attain something on my own, but he felt this bondage of ignorance, living this life just of enjoyment. I don't know who I am or what's real, what's important in life. So swept away by that. So it doesn't have that same element of escapism or selfishness, if there is that at all. It comes from deep-seated longing for something higher, some type of higher truth that will just, it'll consume certain people. The whole life will be devoted to that. some type of conviction that we're seeing everything wrong. This is a nice statement that M made, that Sri Ramakrishna was asking me about something. He said, no, but one thing I understand is that I'm not seeing things correctly. Yeah, that somehow I really living within this veil of Maya, and I want to break through somehow. So we see that with Swamiji, this passion for truth, not a premeditated thing, that this is something that just blossomed within him. So we can't say any of these things are kind of selfish. Now, we get to Swami Vivekananda, finally, and his ideas about mukti are something very interesting. There's a book that was published by Advaita Ashram many, many years ago, small book, called The Teachings of Swami Vivekananda. This book, I have a great fondness for this book. This is the book that turned everything around for me. I bought this book when I was just by chance in India, many, over 50 years ago, and it changed my whole life. It's a wonderful little book. I recommend it very much at different times. It has all different topics, everything that Swamiji said about Atmana, Bhakti, Jnana, different things like that. And one of the topics that's listed is called Freedom and Mukti, Salvation. And there are 26 different entries, and all of them with the same basic idea, all very representative of Swamiji's teachings on the subject. Not a single one deals with getting out of this cycle of birth and death. Not a single one. His idea moves something very much different. So I want to read all about the attainment of freedom in this very lifetime. I want to read just a few of these. The idea of freedom is the only true idea of salvation. Freedom from everything, the senses, whether of pleasure or pain, from good as well as evil. If we give up our attachment to this little universe of the senses or of the mind, we shall be free immediately. The only way to come out of bondage is to go beyond the limitations of law, to go beyond causation. Blessedness, eternal peace arising from perfect freedom is the highest conception of religion, underlying all the ideas of God in the Vedanta. Absolute, free existence, not bound by anything. No change, no nature, nothing that can produce a change in him. This same freedom is in you and in me, and is the only real freedom. So this longing for this Jivan Mukti, this feeling of freedom in this very lifetime, became so strong in Swamiji and so much opposed to this longing for release, for final liberation, that we read very remarkable statements that he made. He said one time, when I used to roam about all over India in my sadhana stage, I passed many days in solitary caves in meditation, and many a time decided to starve myself to death because I could not attain mukti. Now I have no desire for mukti. I do not care for it so long as one single individual in the universe remains without attaining it. This is that bodhisattva stage, that state where one doesn't care at all about what happens, to be willing to do whatever is necessary only for the welfare of others. And of course, the most famous statement that we have of Swamiji's was a letter that he wrote to Mary Hale. And may I be born again and again and suffer thousands of miseries so that I may worship the only God that exists, the only God I believe in, the sum total of all souls, and above all, my God the wicked, my God the miserable, my God the poor of all races, of all species, is the special object of my worship. Now, when we get to Sri Ramakrishna, we'll find that his interest in this idea of mukti took a back seat, not so much because of this idea of serving others, but because of his love of bhakti. So one is the karma yoga ideal, and the ideal selfishness of individual striving for mukti, and the other is this idea of let me enjoy this divine play. So this was Sri Ramakrishna's attitude, that he wanted to taste the sugar. If this mukti meant merging in it, becoming one with it, he wanted to have this feeling of enjoying this lila, enjoying this play. He used to quote very often a line about Sri Krishna saying that I'm never loath to give mukti. I don't mind doing it. It's a simple thing, small thing. But I'm a little stingy when it comes to giving bhakti. So for these other schools, this bhakti is much higher ideal than mukti. We have these 4 ideals of life, and some of these scriptures, they talk about prema as the highest, as the 5th. Parama Purushartha, as the very highest goal of life. So Sri Ramakrishna wanted to see this play go on. He said, I don't want to be merged in that Supreme Brahman. I want to enjoy the bliss of Brahman. He used to sing another song of Ramprasad. Ramprasad says, I bow my head before both liberation and enjoyment. Knowing the truth that Kali is one with the Brahman, I have discarded both dharma and adharma. So this was kind of a heroic attitude also for Sri Ramakrishna. He didn't care for people who just wanted to think about their own spiritual well-being. He had also that same feeling that Swamiji had, who just wanted to escape from the world. He compared them to the amateur dice player, always worried I had to get the right number, than the expert who can just throw anything that he wants. So we can see, I think very clearly, that Swamiji's ideal of mukti, meaning attainment of liberation in this very lifetime, or experience of God in this very lifetime, was very much in keeping with what he learned from Sri Ramakrishna, and very much contrary to our general idea of mukti means trying to get out somehow. Now, I don't want to say that it's completely escapist or pessimistic or anything. It's also realistic a little bit, but this is the ideal of the hero. And Swamiji, not caring about even to be born again and again. He says in one place, I can be born in the body of a dog or a pig, if I can help a single person. I don't mind how many times I'm born. It's a very heroic type of attitude. And we see how clearly this is influenced by the second half of this motto, to care more for the welfare of other people than to worry about our own mukti. So this was also very much Swamiji's ideal. There's a letter that he wrote to one of his brother disciples. This is the test. He who is Ramakrishna's child does not seek his personal good. There is no time to care for name or fame or mukti or bhakti. And he wrote this was a conversation with Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was his Holy Mother's mantra disciple and his sannyas disciple. And Swamiji wanted him to go to preach in East Bengal at that time. So he requested him there. And the Swami Vivekananda said, no, I want to just dive deep into spiritual practice. I'm not interested in going and speaking to other places. Then Swamiji thundered, you will go to hell if you seek your own salvation. Seek the salvation of others if you want to reach the highest. Kill out the desire for personal mukti. That is the greatest of all spiritual disciplines. So this was Swamiji's attitude. There's one other idea, of course, is that this will sound a little fanatical and a little sectarian maybe, but many of us connected with this tradition have some faith and some conviction that we don't have to worry about final liberation. We've been promised by Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother that these things are nothing that we have to worry about. Sri Ramakrishna said, those who are in their last life will come to me. And even this idea of Ramakrishna Loka, this Ramakrishna Loka, that we find that many great sadhus of our order, even great Advaitins, staunch Advaitins, still had this firm faith that this Ramakrishna Loka is waiting for us and that we don't have to worry. I'm going to close by reading a little bit from a letter written by Swami Vishuddhanandaji. Swami Vishuddhanandaji was the 8th president of the order. One of his disciples, had written about having some nightmare, some bad dream that disturbed her very much. He said, "I don't understand why you feel so downhearted by an insignificant bad dream. Sri Ramakrishna has said that those who are in their last birth will come here." That means to him. Revered Holy Mother told us that many times. This was a disciple of Holy Mother that he's writing to. "Now, give up all ideas of mukti and such foolishness. Your mukti is in her hands. Whether it happens in this lifetime or after 100 lifetimes, it is not for you to worry about. She is well aware of all of this. Your one duty is to take shelter at her holy feet and remain in that state, to offer your body, mind, and senses at her holy feet." And then Swamiji would add, "and to work for the welfare of others, seeing God within all." So this is the end of this second session, and next time we'll go through that final portion of for the welfare of the world. So let us just sit quietly for a few minutes now.